Grab your latest Social Security statement or pull it up on the SSA website and find your estimated monthly benefit. Got it? Now multiply that number by 0.76. If you're near the national average, about $2,080 a month, that gives you roughly $1,581. Look at the gap, about $500 a month. That's not a number I made up. In June 2026, the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget ran this exact math state by state and found the average cut lands right around $500, as low as $459, as high as $556, depending on where you live. That smaller number isn't a scare tactic. It's what current federal law says you'll receive on a specific date if Washington does nothing. And that date just moved closer. So, where does 0.76 come from? Why 76 cents on the dollar? Because it's not a guess. It's the math of money already in motion. To understand your check, you have to understand the reservoir behind it. And what's happening to that reservoir is not what the word insolvent makes you picture. Here's how Social Security really works. Every payday, 6.2% of a worker's wages goes in, the employer matches it, and it goes straight back out to today's 70-plus million retirees. You paid for the generation ahead of you. The next generation pays for you. It's a relay race, not a personal savings account. For decades, more came in than went out, so the system built a surplus, a reservoir of Treasury bonds worth about $2.7 trillion. Picture water rising behind a dam. Then the flow reversed. Today, payouts exceed payroll taxes coming in, and the gap is covered by draining that reservoir by $67 billion in 2024 alone. Here's the line that matters. The official Social Security Trustees report last put the date at 2033 with a 23% cut. But the Congressional Budget Office's newer projection, its February 2026 baseline, moved that date a full year closer to late 2032 and the cut to about 24%. The fresh 2026 Trustees report is due any day now. The trend is going one direction, sooner and deeper. And this is where the math turns. When the reservoir empties, Social Security doesn't shut down and doesn't hit zero. Payroll taxes keep flowing in, but by law, the program can only pay out what it takes in. And that only covers about 76% of what's promised. That's your 0.76. That's the $500 cut. It isn't a vote anyone has to cast. It's the automatic default that triggers the moment the fund runs dry, unless Congress changes the law first. Quick thing before the next part. The cut we just walked through is the loud one, the one that makes headlines. But there's a second cut that's already pulling money out of your check this year, quietly, with no announcement at all. If you want the moves the system makes before you ever see them, subscribe and tap the bell. This channel breaks one of them down every week. Now let me show you the silent one. Most people hear 2032 and exhale, still years away. Congress always patches it at the last minute. Maybe. But here's what that relief is hiding. While everyone watches for the loud cut in 2032, a second, quieter cut is already taking money out of your check this year, with no vote, no headline, no announcement. And over a long retirement, it can cost you more than the famous one. First, your raise that isn't a raise. Your 2026 cost of living adjustment is 2.8%, about $56 more a month. But that index is built around younger workers' spending, not retirees, and you spend more on health care and housing, which climb faster. Then the Medicare Part B premium, pulled straight from your check, rises from $185 in 2025 to $202.90 in 2026, a near 10% jump that claws back part of that raise before you see it. The number on your check holds steady. The buying power quietly melts like an ice cube on the counter. Second, and this one's almost diabolical, Social Security can be taxed once your income crosses $25,000 if you're single, or $32,000 for a couple. Cross the upper lines, and up to 85% of your benefit becomes taxable. Here's the trick. Those thresholds haven't moved since the 1980s. They're frozen, not indexed to inflation on purpose. Lawmakers knew that as benefits slowly rose while the line stayed nailed down, more retirees would drift over them every year. In the mid-1980s, about 1 in 10 beneficiaries paid this tax. Today, it's closer to half. So every cost of living raise can nudge you toward a tax line that never moves to meet you. This benefit isn't what most people think it is. For decades you were told it was your tax-free reward. The frozen thresholds quietly turned it into something else. And if you heard they ended the tax on Social Security, not quite. A 2025 law added a temporary senior deduction of up to $6,000 for those 65 and older for tax years 2025 through 2028, and it phases out at higher incomes. Real help, but it didn't repeal the tax or unfreeze the thresholds. A blanket was thrown over the trap. The blanket has an expiration date. Step back. Why is the reservoir draining? Because the relay ran out of runners. When Social Security began, dozens of workers paid in for every retiree. Today, it's fewer than 3. People live longer, the baby boomers are all collecting at once, and birth rates fell. The system was designed for a country that no longer exists, one where people retired briefly and passed on. We built longer lives. The funding math never caught up, and the fix has no painless lever. Congress can raise the payroll tax, lift the wage cap. Only the first $184,500 of earnings is taxed in 2026. Raise the retirement age, trim the cost of living formula, or cut benefits outright. Every option pulls on the federal debt and the Fed's interest rates somewhere down the line. The cruel part, the longer they wait, the sharper the fix has to be. But the system isn't done with your money yet. Around age 73 or 75, if you were born in 1960 or later, the IRS forces you to start withdrawing from your traditional 401k and IRA. That forced income can push you over those frozen tax thresholds and trip what's called IRMAA, the Medicare surcharge that can multiply your premium based on your income from 2 years ago. And when one spouse dies, the survivor often files as single with narrower brackets. The same income that was fine for 2 becomes punishing for 1. One last piece, and it's the one that ties all of this together into a single decision. If you've made it this far, you already look at that monthly check differently than you did 10 minutes ago. That's the whole point of this channel. Take the forces quietly working against your retirement and make them visible before they cost you. Subscribe and you'll see the next one coming. Here's the decision. Everything we covered is secretly wired to. Now watch where all of this connects. The single choice of when you claim Social Security. Here's the trap the 2032 headlines are setting. People panic and claim early at 62 to grab the check before the cut. But claiming early can permanently shrink your benefit by 25 to 30%, a deeper, more certain cut than the one they're fleeing. Wait, and each year past full retirement age adds about 8%. I'm not telling you to claim early or to wait. That depends on your health, your savings, your spouse, and your income, and only you and a professional can weigh it. But look at what that one decision is wired to. The size of the check the 2032 cut applies to, how much of your income is taxed, your required withdrawals at 73, your Medicare premium, how hard you lean on savings in a bad market, and what's left for the survivor. One ordinary decision, the whole machine hanging off it. That's what nobody tells you. You were handed one lever and told it was simple. Pull it without seeing the wiring, and the system decides for you, in 76-cent increments and frozen thresholds and surcharge letters you never expected. So look at your number again. This time, you know what it's actually wired to. Quick note, this is educational, not personalized financial advice. Every figure here changes, and your situation is yours alone. Confirm the current numbers and run your case past a qualified financial or tax professional before you act.